Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching. The cryogenic bay groaned as the primary chamber doors unlocked and slid open. Admiral Kevin Hoffman stood alone at the center of the bridge, already awake, already watching. Dozens of cryopods disengaged in sequence, steam curling across the grated floor beneath dim amber lights. The cold blue glow of tactical displays outlined his silhouette, while the curve of the distant starfield framed a man who had never stopped guarding. He watched everything through the forward feed, the backup systems coming online, the reawakening of his crew, some rising strong, others with tremors in their limbs, all of them human, all of them his. They came from dust, and they were always ready to return to it, but not yet, not today. Hope's voice pulsed softly in the air, steady and composed. Phase 1 of cryogenic reactivation complete. Neural stability confirmed in 78% of crew. Remaining pods disengaging over the next 4 minutes. Maintain sequencing, Hoffman replied, eyes fixed on the screen. Inside the cryo chamber, Talbot was the first to rise, slow, steady, like a man surfacing from the bottom of the ocean. Ice crackled off his skin and dropped in pieces as he pulled himself upright. Next to him, Raynor coughed sharply and steadied himself against the frame of the pod. Across the bay, other soldiers groaned, blinking against the lights. One of them, an engineer named Leary, reached out and touched the curved edge of the pod screen next to him, where an old photograph had been taped. A rusted-out skyline, green oceans, Earth in better days. "Think it's still there?" he murmured, his voice raw. "Doesn't matter," replied the man in the next pod, Ensign Cole, his breath fogging in the air. "We're going to find out." Talbot rubbed a scar under his eye, then turned to Raynor. "You hear that?" Raynor tilted his head. The ship was humming again. Alive. "Yeah, but it's quieter than I remember." "Silence isn't absence," Talbot said, pulling on his uniform jacket with one fluid motion. "It's waiting." The pair walked out of the cryo chamber and into the corridor. Emergency lighting painted everything in deep crimson hues. Pipes groaned overhead as gravity stabilizers synced back into alignment. When they entered the bridge, the temperature dropped noticeably, not in degrees, but in presence. The Admiral was already there. His uniform was immaculate, the silver bars on his collar catching the glow from the command console. Dust lingered on the edge of the command seal, the old Earth insignia, faded and worn. Time had tried to bury them. It hadn't worked. Talbot and Raynor stepped forward and saluted. "Commander Talbot reporting, sir. Lieutenant Raynor on deck." "Good. Take your posts," Hoffman replied without turning. Raynor took the navigation terminal, hands still stiff from cryostasis. Talbot stepped beside him, verifying subsystem reboots. The deck was quiet, too quiet for a warship, even one just coming alive again. "Hope," Hoffman said. "Initiate full astrometric plotting, set course, Sol system, lock primary on Earth. Coordinates confirmed. Optimal approach vector will complete in 38 minutes, awaiting confirmation to engage sublight drives." "Hold on burn," Hoffman said. "Bring power to diagnostics, then weapons. I want this ship combat ready before we touch dust." At the rear of the bridge, 2 non-human figures stood in silence. Yash, a Korgtal soldier, was stoic and still. Taller than the humans, his upright stance had an eerie fluidity. He hovered just above the deck, armored boots skimming millimeters from the floor, a trait of species evolved in unstable gravity. His skin had the muted sheen of mineral cartilage, smooth but not soft, shaped like chiseled basalt beneath thin layers of crystalline plating. 2 pairs of arms hung at his sides, each joint double-folded, built for precision. His long head was crowned with a rigid bone crest, segmented like a ridged fin curving toward his back. 4 green eyes, elongated and independent, tracked in different directions, absorbing every detail of the human's awakening. His mandibles folded in silence, insect-like but ordered. Light pulsed across his torso in faint blue arcs, data flowing through semi-translucent panels woven into his exoskeletal uniform. It wasn't armor, at least not overtly. It was neutral, functional, built for efficiency, no insignias, no medals, just lines of light and quiet control. Beside him stood Lek, another Korgtal, smaller, more analytical. His voice, when he spoke, came low and measured. "Does this trouble you?" Yash didn't answer immediately. He observed as one human officer hesitated, then forced himself to the console, hands still shaking. "No," Yash finally said. "Just curious." Below deck, the Ragnarok's engineering core was waking up. Pulses of light raced through spinal conduits as power surged into long dormant systems. Chief Engineer Varlo, tall, broad-shouldered, and Korgatal, moved through the chamber like a drifting monolith, his boots skimming the floor in silent glides. His forearms worked in seamless coordination. Two swept through holographic diagnostics, the others locking down a hybrid matrix core of alien design. A segmented bone crest rose over his skull, and his green eyes tracked independently across the interface, slow and calculating. His exosuit was dense but elegant, smooth, translucent plates, threaded with internal filaments that glowed faintly along his spine and chest. No weapons were visible, but the reinforced plating and conduit ports suggested force restrained by function. He held up a crystalline module, veined with flickering data, and slotted it into the core interface. The system bucked. Sparks flared. Lights stuttered. Hope's voice rang through the chamber. "Unrecognized interface detected. Initiating compatibility check. System anomaly within acceptable bounds. Adaptation viable. Integration approved." Varlo's voice was deep, yet calm. "Like us. Different. Still compatible." Chief Systems Officer Merton, standing nearby, raised a brow. "That thing just overwrote half our safety protocols." "If it had failed," Varlo said, not looking up, "we'd be dead." Across the chamber, two Korgtal technicians worked over a vented plasma conduit. They whispered, mandibles tight with anxiety. "This is dangerous," hissed Task, lean and pale, his forearms twitching. "The Coalition said that their return would end us all," finished Krelik. "They're not meant to exist." Varlo turned slowly. His voice, though steady, carried weight. "And yet you breathe, because they did. Get back to your stations." They obeyed. Back on the bridge, Hope's systems had fully stabilized. Power grid synchronized. All decks reporting online. Weapon systems available at 67%. Full upgrade functionality pending. Hoffman tapped a command and opened a secure channel. "Bring Arjek to me." A moment later, Commander Arjek entered the bridge. Tall and calm, his movements smooth as his feet hovered just above the deck plating. His presence was precise. The mineral glass fabric of his Korgtal suit shimmered with thin lines of data that adjusted in real time to temperature and pressure. Embedded markers pulsed along his arms and spine, not for ornament, but for function. His eyes, four elongated orbs of shifting green, moved independently, analyzing Hoffman, the starfield behind him, and the fluctuating readouts on the central console all at once. The crest of segmented plates along his scalp and neck glowed faintly under the bridge lighting. "Admiral," Arjek said in his deep, steady voice, "you requested an update." "I want clarity," Hoffman said, turning toward him. "Tell me what really happened to Earth." Arjek inclined his head slightly. "Coalition archives claim Earth was purged via a Class Darthrine atmospheric sonic weapon, non-nuclear, surface impact. It was deployed approximately 380 standard cycles ago. According to those records, total extinction occurred within minutes. Colonies neutralized earlier, roughly 5 centuries ago. The Coalition's strategy focused on sequential elimination. Earth was considered the symbolic finale. Hoffman narrowed his eyes. This weapon, how deep does it reach? Maximum confirmed penetration, 2 kilometers, Arjek said. Atmospheric detonation, designed for surface collapse. Civilian population centers, primary infrastructure. Everything above ground or shallow depth would have been erased. Hoffman's gaze turned to the projection of Earth, fractured, cold, still marked by coalition warnings. Were these reports verified? A brief pause. Arjek's upper right hand opened slightly, palm facing up, a Korgtal gesture of analytical uncertainty. No. Coalition policy forbade return missions. The planet was designated as an echo zone, closed for psychological and political stability. Data was accepted, not confirmed. Hoffman didn't respond immediately. He stepped forward, facing the void outside the viewport, arms behind his back. Then it's not certain, he said at last. Just propaganda. Arjek floated a fraction closer, keeping respectful distance. Admiral, if this is about initiating a surface investigation... Hoffman cut him off with a calm edge in his voice. It's about facts, and the truth is that 2 kilometers doesn't reach the ocean floor. Mariana Trench, over 8,000 meters deep. If they knew it was coming... He let the silence carry the thought. Arjek's primary eyes fixed on him, the others watching the data feeds. You believe your species could have prepared in time? I believe we knew how to disappear when needed, Hoffman said. Maybe we never left. Maybe we just waited deeper than they ever dared to look. Arjek didn't object. He simply folded his lower arms across his chest in contemplation. Then we proceed with caution. The unknown remains a variable, even in silence. Then, low emission contact pulse received. Signal non-standard. Identifying. Match found. UES Seraphim. Hope announced. The bridge went still. For a breath, no one moved. Hoffman stepped forward, slow and focused, as the tactical display adjusted, mapping the position of the signal and projecting the ship's ID signature. The signature bore age, slight delays in pulse, micro-distortions in IFF echoes. But it held, like a ship that had learned how to endure by becoming part of the silence itself. Open channel, Hoffman said. A click, then static. Ragnarok, this is Commander Josh Spiegel, UES Seraphim. I repeat, Seraphim reporting, alive and operational. Admiral Hoffman, it's good to hear your ship's name again. The voice carried through the silence like thunder in a crypt. Rayner straightened at the nav station. On the upper deck, one of the awakened gunnery officers, Lieutenant Davins, let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Hoffman's tone was steady. Seraphim, this is Admiral Hoffman. Confirm your AI core status. A pause, then another voice came online. Smooth, masculine, with slight modulation delay. This is Matt, AI core of the UES Seraphim. Full integrity confirmed. Crew count 63 and climbing back to discipline. Life support stable. Awaiting directives, Admiral. Hoffman's fingers tapped once on the interface. Directive is simple. Regroup. We have a war to assess. On the lower deck, crewmen gathered silently around a secondary monitor showing the Seraphim's identifier pulsing beside the Ragnaroks. A mechanic named Elrod stared at the screen, expression unreadable. He raised a gloved hand and traced the hologram with one finger. Reverent. The Seraphim. It's real, he muttered. They made it. Corporal Henders stood beside him, helmet still under one arm. Didn't think anyone else did. They weren't built to fail, Elrod said. Neither were we. On the bridge, Hoffman watched the reactions without comment. Then he returned to the open channel. Commander Spiegel, what's your operational state? Combat ready, Spiegel answered without hesitation. But rationed. We've been conserving fuel and bandwidth. Passive scans only. Hope's signal woke us. Rayner leaned toward his panel. We're getting full sync telemetry now. Navigation's updating. Good, Hoffman said. We'll need Seraphim on full integration. Matt, link with Hope. Begin fleet sync. Confirmed, said Matt. A thin green band lit up across the hologrid. 2 ships, 1 link. The first thread in a war net centuries overdue. Sir, Spiegel continued, if I may. Speak. If coalition protocols are still active. Spiegel paused. The moment we access anything earthbound, satellites, signals, planetary relays, it's going to trigger ghost systems. Old ones. Traps, maybe. Surveillance sweeps at the very least. Hoffman nodded once. I'm counting on it. If they're listening, they'll know we're back, Spiegel said. Fast. They already do, Hoffman replied. Now we're going to make them remember. Behind him, Yash's 4 eyes tracked Hoffman. Matt, Hoffman said, we need more than just firepower. We need eyes. What's the status of the Inazuma? Contact confirmed, Matt answered instantly. Captain Hanzo initiated ping 8 hours ago. Inazuma's analog core makes full data transfer difficult, but they're awake and cloaked within the Oort cloud. Holding pattern, passive stealth, no detected contact. Distance, 60,000 kilometers, within coordinated jump range. Response status, minimal. Sarutobi, Inazuma's onboard AI, confirmed crew is combat ready and awaiting rendezvous. Hoffman turned to Talbot. Plot intercept, match velocity with Inazuma, minimum signature path. Aye, sir, Talbot replied, already entering commands. Hope's voice cut in. Projected rendezvous with UES Inazuma in 73 minutes at current trajectory. Stealth pattern aligned. Risk index, minimal. In the lower levels of the Ragnarok, engines began to pulse in sequence. Their glow wasn't visible, not from outside, but the entire superstructure adjusted. A shift in energy distribution told everyone what they needed to know. The Ragnarok was moving. On the Seraphim, Commander Josh Spiegel stood silently in his command chair, watching his displays synchronize with Hope's data stream. His XO, Lieutenant Marin, watched from the side, arms crossed, pale face framed by cables that pulsed with diagnostic lights. The old ghosts are waking up, Marin said softly. Spiegel nodded. And this time, they won't get the chance to forget. Back on the Ragnarok, Raynor confirmed course lock. Trajectory aligned. Inazuma intercept in progress. Hoffman stepped back toward the center of the bridge. The projection updated, now displaying 3 ship markers. Ragnarok, Seraphim, Inazuma. 1 pale blue thread linked them. It looked like a whisper. Like the beginning of something too quiet to be war, but too sharp to be peace. Yash floated silently in the background, posture firm. Lex stood beside him, monitoring the gravitational harmonics of the propulsion corridor. This isn't just about Earth, Lex said quietly, more to himself than to Yash. It never was. No, Yash agreed. It's about what Earth kept buried. The Ragnarok pressed forward into the void, engines humming just below the threshold of visibility. Behind them, the Seraphim adjusted formation, matching vector with ghost-like precision. Ahead, the Inazuma waited, small, silent, and unreadable. The coalition, wherever it still hid, had just lost the gift of time. And the humans, they were no longer scattered. The first glimpse came as a flicker on the edge of Hope's gravimetric scope, a dent in the curve of subspace drift. Just beyond the halo of the Oort cloud, nestled between frozen debris and ancient orbital scars, something moved with too much purpose to be natural. Inbound shadow signature, Raynor called from the nav station. Confirmed velocity profile. It's her. Hope's voice followed. Designation, UES Inazuma, stealth analog vessel, active. The image came slowly, distorted, like something not meant to be seen. Her lines weren't graceful. They were brutal. A knife wedged into black. She still flies, Talbot muttered. Damn. The bridge lights dimmed to tactical mode as the projection of the ship appeared above the central console. Compact, angular. Unlike the sleek hulls of the Ragnarok or Seraphim, the Inazuma had no elegance. She was built like a blade. Hoffman studied the feed. The ship didn't broadcast standard telemetry. Her systems didn't handshake automatically. No active comms, just the passive trace of engines too efficient to be modern. She was moving in silence, as if the void itself had swallowed her. A sharp transmission cut through. Inazuma to Ragnarok. This is Captain Hanzo. Awaiting orders. His voice was low, commanding. No protocol greeting, just readiness. Hoffman leaned toward the console. Hanzo, infiltrate the Plutonian grid. Navigate through the Kuiper Belt. I want recon on any surviving infrastructure. If you encounter a Dravar leader, capture him. Hanzo responded immediately. Understood. Mission accepted. Behind Hoffman, Commander Arjek watched the holographic projection of the Inazuma Ark away from the fleet, diving toward the Kuiper edge. That ship still operates on analog core systems, Arjek said, arms folded, green eyes tracking the display. No quantum mesh, no slipnet algorithms. It's prehistoric. Which is exactly why no one can trace it, Hoffman replied. Inazuma was designed to be forgotten. That's what makes her lethal. From her tactical bay, Neller, the Korgtal cartographer, watched the trajectory plot unfold. She tilted her head slightly, expression tight. She's threading through Sector 7, Neller said. That belt's chaos incarnate. No AI dares it. No ship survives it. She was built for it, Hoffman answered flatly. Inazuma always arrives. Within the Inazuma, red lighting bathed the narrow command chamber in a low, blooded hue. The walls were stripped of interface screens. Most of the controls were mechanical, locked in sealed compartments behind pressure-rated bulkheads. Everything here ran on primary relays and hardened processors. Hanzo stood at the center of the bridge, gloved hands resting on the rail above Sarutobi's core interface. A mass of fibers and cold gas tubes fed into a static terminal. Sarutobi didn't speak unless prompted. He simply acted. Plot vector, mask heat signature, Hanzo ordered. The ship responded instantly, not with sound, but with shift. The hull angled 1 degree. Engines flexed. The vessel slid into the Kuiper field like a ghost threading a minefield. Inside the sensor chamber, Technician Dale monitored the passive array. His voice snapped to life. Micro lens is offline. Debris field denser than expected. Forward readings reduced. Compensate with sonar, Hanzo replied. I'm trying, sir, but we've got a drift pocket at 7 o'clock. It's shifting. A hard jolt. The Inazuma twisted left, emergency thrusters firing in controlled sequence. Trajectory breach, Dale shouted. Micro-asteroid just clipped the outer scan line. For a heartbeat, the Inazuma was off-axis, vulnerable. But before the last warning finished, the ship corrected. In a burst of ultra-precise counterbalance, the bow twisted 26 degrees down and to port. Sarutobi had triggered the correction manually, bypassing 3 warning protocols. On the command rail, Hanzo didn't flinch. Report. No impact, Dale said after a moment. We should have been split. Sir, a human pilot wouldn't have made that. Hanzo said nothing. His gaze moved to a sealed compartment near his console. He opened it and retrieved a small object, a weathered photograph sealed in a transparent case. The image was dark, a skyline cracked and buried under ash, a child and a woman, the lines of their faces blurred by time and time dilation. He stared at it in silence, then without a word, sealed it back where it belonged, not in memory, but in mission. In the rear of the ship, Marines were already suiting up. Corporal Diaz ran diagnostics on his exo-visor, while Sergeant Nolan checked the mag locks on the railgun pack strapped to his back. Lieutenant Soren stood before them all, voice low and controlled. Pluto base recon only. No overkill unless we're seen. If we spot command hierarchy, we grab, not kill. Hoffman wants mouths, not martyrs. A low murmur of affirmation followed. They all knew what was coming. what it meant to move in first. But none of them hesitated. Inazuma moved faster now. Through the densest edges of the Kuiper, her path twisted like a predator stalking in fog. From afar, she barely registered as a glitch in space. Nothing modern could track her, not because she was stealthy, but because she didn't speak the same language as everything else. Back on the Ragnarok, Nelir updated the sensor map. They're past Sector 9. Trajectory clean. Minimal field drag. Hoffman watched the projection. Hold all comms silent. Let them work. Arjek moved beside him. You trust Hanzo completely. No, Hoffman said. I trust the mission. Hanzo never fails it. Talbot gave a small nod from navigation. Still, there's something eerie about that ship. It's not a ship, Raynor said quietly. It's a weapon, one we buried for this exact moment. Silence settled across the bridge as the Inazuma vanished from even Hope's deep scan tracking. Beyond Pluto's dark edge, a ghost moved through forgotten corridors of the solar graveyard. A signal older than memory. One ship, one order, one war reawakening. The Inazuma dropped out of stealth just inside Pluto's shadow. No announcement, no signal burst. Just a change in geometry. Space around her bending differently as Sarutobi powered down the cloak drive and rerouted heat sinks into internal reserves. The stars behind the ship stopped warping. They were in position. Surface scan complete, Sarutobi reported without tone. Drevar presence confirmed. 1 installation, 2 minor satellites, moderate defense grid, weak, legacy code. Rotating pulse cannons with slow lock-on times. Captain Hanzo stood at the helm, visor down, eyes focused. The planet spun beneath them like a dead coal, its light sucked dry. Pluto's horizon was fractured with old scars, crater ridges, fusion impact zones, long stretches of frost over collapsed mining beds. Bring up the layout, Hanzo ordered. Sarutobi projected a holographic rendering of the Drevar station above the center column. The base was nestled in a basin carved out of ice and basalt, half submerged and covered by a reactive dome, weakly shielded, barely opaque. 2 entry points, 1 atmospheric, 1 subterranean. Sensor arrays had gaps every 6 seconds. AI rotation was analog staggered. Manual sync fallback. Hanzo's voice remained calm. Tactical options. Entry through sub-point 2 bypasses 71% of perimeter defense. Heat dissipation field is still functional, but weak. If we time it between thermal exhausts, infiltration window is 19 seconds. Prep squad, hard insertion. No radio once we breach. In the lower deck, the Marines moved fast. Sergeant Nolan barked assignments, voice flat and mechanical. Soren, your point. Diaz, you're on tech. Breach cycle in 2 minutes. No sound, no light, no ego. Lieutenant Soren clipped his harness into place and locked his helmet with a hydraulic hiss. Any ID on station command? Unknown, Nolan replied. But if he's here, we're bagging him. Copy. Within 90 seconds, the Marines were aboard a drop skiff. No thrusters, no lights. Just a guided rail ejection from the Inazuma's underbelly, angled precisely along the planet's gravity curve. A drift insertion. They struck ice. Dust rose in slow spirals as their boots hit the frozen surface of Pluto. Their suits held. No flare, no scatter. They moved like shadows across the crust, weapons tight to their chests, visors dark. Inside the station, Drevar guards were barely active. The species, tall, sinewy beings with translucent skin and a secondary set of vocal sacs, were built for high oxygen, low light environments. Their armor was thin, plated with segmented silver scales, and most of them moved with the overconfidence of invaders, long unchallenged. The breach came at 0312 local rotation. 2 charges. 1 vent shaft bypass, 1 throat cut, no alarms. Inside the control core, a Drevar technician raised his head too slowly. A silenced round split his skull before his crest flared. Sergeant Nolan signaled forward. Soren and Diaz took point. They moved through the secondary corridor with speed. Every door bypassed in less than 2 seconds. Sarutobi had already mapped the base from orbit, feeding positional vectors into their HUDs. Room by room, the station fell. In less than 4 minutes, the entire first deck was cleared. "Main chamber," Diaz whispered, glancing at the readout. "Biosign confirmed. He's in there." Hanzo approached the sealed command door. No signal was sent. He placed a charge, leaned back, and detonated it in a breath. The room inside was circular, lined with black Dravar alloy. At the center, a tall figure turned. His eye plates flashed amber, his neural fins stiffened in alarm. His name was Vral, and he was not a soldier. He was a coordinator, a relay officer. Not high command, but higher than expected. When he saw Hanzo step through the smoke, rifle raised, visor mirrored and unreadable, his voice cracked. You were extinct. Humans. Hanzo's tone didn't shift. Not all of us. Vral staggered back against the terminal, his secondary arms twitching. It's impossible. You died. The entire species was... Put the bindings on him, Hanzo said. 2 Marines moved in. Vral resisted, briefly, then folded. Diaz swept the room for storage cores. "Captain, you'll want to see this." In the side console, rows of crystalline data blocks glowed under cold light emitters. Diaz linked a decryptor and let it run. The display flickered, language packets unfolded. Dravar engineering logs, schematic overlays, and familiar shapes. Weapons, rifles, armor configurations, human designs, terribly imitated. They were trying to replicate our systems, Diaz muttered. "Did they succeed?" Hanzo asked. Diaz scoffed. "No, they copied outlines, not substance. Reverse engineering dead tech. Energy curves are wrong. Heat dispersion's a joke. Power cycles are 20 years behind. It's like trying to rebuild a thunderstorm from a postcard." Hanzo stared at the file logs. He tapped his wrist. A tight beam transmission pushed through to the Inazuma. "Mission complete. Package secured. Secondary data cache retrieved. Preparing for exfil." Sarutobi's voice returned. "Acknowledged. Extraction route synchronized. Surface window opens in 7 minutes." Vral squirmed under his restraints, mandibles trembling. "They'll come for me. You don't understand. The Dravar. We own the Sol system now. There are millions of us on Earth." Hanzo knelt in front of him, expression unreadable behind the mirrored visor. "You should have stayed quiet. You might have lived in denial a little longer. Now you get to die informed," the Dravar hissed, a sound of confusion more than rage. "You can't stop us. We control it now. This world is ours." "Wrong system," Hanzo said, rising. "Wrong century." The team moved in sync. Vral was hauled to his feet. The data cores were packed into insulated crates. Charges were set on the fuel cores. Sarutobi brought the skiff back down in a silent arc, hull coated in pulse-absorbing mesh. 3 minutes later, the base behind them detonated. From the edge of orbit, the flash looked like a dying breath in the dark. One base down, one lie buried. On the bridge of the Ragnarok, Hope displayed the transmission burst on the main interface. Encrypted signal received from Captain Hanzo. Live capture confirmed. Data stream attached. Hoffman stepped forward. He studied the brief file headers, the Dravar command markings, the recorded outburst. When he read the line, "You were extinct," he said nothing. But behind him, Talbot murmured under his breath, "They thought we were gone." Rayner added, "They wanted it to be true." Hoffman's gaze stayed locked on the screen. "They wanted us gone. Now they get to live knowing we're not." 58 signatures, Hope announced. 124, 200, climbing. Hoffman turned from the viewport. The bridge lights dimmed as threat protocols activated across the tactical grid. Red arcs spread from the outer rim of the system, coalescing in Sector Vide 9. "Confirm origin," he ordered. "Zelvar fleet, formation coherent, vectoring in-system at 1.8 light. Estimated force, 300 vessels. Mixed class, destroyers, carriers, interceptors." Talbot leaned over the console. "No relay beacon." They're flying dark. They're not here to talk, Rayner said. They're here to silence us. A soft chime echoed as Varlo entered the bridge, floating a few centimeters above the floor, 2 arms clasped behind his back, the other 2 scrolling through a stream of diagnostic readouts projected from his chest plate. His voice was deep, filtered through a resonance modulator. The Gungnir is ready. Hoffman turned slightly. The what? Varlo floated closer to the weapons console, 2 arms interfacing with the targeting hologram, while the other 2 gestured with calm precision. The gravitational weapon mounted beneath your ventral core. I've restructured its power cell architecture. Human cycling was inefficient. I replaced it with Korgtal thermal bypass matrices, refracted in phase with your coil configuration. You renamed the weapon? Varlo didn't flinch. Yes, I found the name in your mythological archives. Gungnir, a spear that never missed. Hoffman raised a brow. You read Norse mythology? I analyzed linguistic roots and symbolic patterns to locate terms of cultural significance, Varlo said plainly. The designation was efficient and thematically appropriate. Hoffman narrowed his eyes. Are you a nerd? Varlo paused. I do not understand that classification. Doesn't matter. Hoffman turned fully now. Target lead vessels. Priority on carriers. Hope's voice returned. Trajectories locked. Primary Gungnir capacitor at 100%. Estimated dispersal pattern. Total saturation. Talbot hesitated. Should I engage residual masking? Our shot could disappear in the noise. No, Hoffman said. Don't hide it. He stepped closer to the console, eyes fixed on the red swarms gathering at the edge of the tactical map. Let's show them why they used to call Ragnarok the Herald of Destruction. Hope, he said. Fire. The ship shifted. The Gungnir cannon extended from beneath the Ragnarok's forward spine, a segmented barrel bristling with heat vents, now glowing blue-white from internal charge. Magnetic locks sealed. A vibration moved through the deck, not shaking, something deeper, something pulling. Talbot blinked hard, one hand steadying the edge of his console. Felt like it reached inside the ship and pointed out. In the hangar, crew paused mid-task. Lights flickered in a heartbeat rhythm. Every system on board bled power into a single capacitor node the size of a shuttle. On the bridge, the holographic display went white for a second, and then the Gungnir fired. It didn't make sound. It didn't flash. It bent. The space ahead of the Ragnarok folded inward like wet silk. A lancing spear of condensed gravimetric force punched through vacuum, and everything in its path shattered. Carriers crumpled into spheres, destroyers twisted like paper. Fighter wings atomized in mid-burn, their exhaust trails snapping out of existence before they could finish arching. Hope spoke again, voice stripped of cadence. Zelvar fleet, neutralized. 287 vessels destroyed. Remaining units, non-operational. Communications, terminated. Silence. Absolute. Then Yasha's voice, low and almost reluctant, broke it. We woke up monsters. He stood at the rear of the bridge, arms folded across his plated chest, 4 green eyes watching the hologram burn out. The Zelvar fleet had become a cloud of nothing, debris so pulverized it was indistinguishable from background drift. Varlo said nothing. He turned and drifted back toward the main console, eyes calm. Yash looked at Hoffman. Is this justice or revenge? Neither, Hoffman replied, eyes still locked on the display. It's survival. Hope pulsed again. Initiating post-engagement scan, sweeping adjacent outposts and broadcast nodes. Rayner adjusted his console. We just tore apart 300 ships. If anyone had a listening post near Neptune, they heard it scream. Hope paused. Residual data signatures found. Scanning wreckage. A moment later, a stream of corrupted Zelvar telemetry unspooled across the forward display, fragments of language, partial visual logs, trajectory charts, and beneath it, tagged coordinates. Earth. Yash stepped forward. They were watching. They weren't here for us, Raynor added. They were here for what we might wake up. Varlo narrowed his gaze. They feared something buried. Hoffman leaned in as the data reconstructed, time-stamped logs going back centuries, all marked by orbital coordinates near the Pacific Trench, Antarctic shelves, and mid-oceanic ridges. They've been circling the planet for decades, Talbot said. Hope summarized. Zelvar observation began shortly after the Coalition strike. Long-range probes recorded aquatic tectonics, energy fluctuations, and electromagnetic anomalies below known crust depth. They knew, Yash said quietly. They just didn't know how much. Hoffman took one step back, folding his hands behind his back. Prep long-range comms. Signal the Seraphim. Hanzo will need to see this. And tell Arjek to bring me everything the Coalition ever archived about Deep Earth war theory. Hope acknowledged. Hoffman stared at the flickering fragments on the display. Zelvar cruisers shredded mid-jump, orbital records corrupted by gravitational impact, and Earth, marked, catalogued, and feared. We didn't start this war, he said, but we're going to end it where it began. The Inazuma tore through the outer edge of the Kuiper belt like a phantom shot from a railgun, trailing frozen vapor and silent momentum. Her analog hull shimmered faintly as it decelerated in a flawless arc, emerging from sub-stealth just off the Ragnarok's starboard flank. In one seamless maneuver, her docking arms extended. Minutes later, Hanzo stepped onto the Ragnarok's deck, his boots hitting metal like punctuation. He was already moving toward the bridge. Mission complete, Hanzo reported. The encounter was arranged, sir. Admiral Hoffman turned from the main display. The lighting in the command deck remained low from the post-battle protocol, casting long shadows under the tactical overlays. Hanzo's armor was scorched along one shoulder, but he stood calm, untouched by the weight of what he carried. They tried to copy us, Hanzo continued. Failed miserably. Their coordinator's name is Vral. He's secured in detention, Hope's voice followed. Infiltration log confirmed. Decrypted Dravar data cores now synced. No anomalies. Hoffman nodded once. Prepare the fleet. Set course for Pluto. Raynor turned toward the nav console, already locking in the new trajectory. Ready to burn on your order. The Ragnarok began to pivot, engine coils aligning in silent orchestration with the Seraphim. From its position near the edge of Neptune's outer orbit, the human fleet reoriented with swift, precise force. Inazuma was already moving ahead, a vanguard without noise. As the ships closed on Pluto's shadow, the tension returned. Not fear, calculation. In the Ragnarok's interrogation chamber, Vral stood restrained in a low-gravity harness. His translucent skin had lost its luster. The neural fins behind his crown no longer held tension. Across the glass barrier, Hoffman stood with Commander Josh Spiegel at his side, both silent as the Dravar processed the weight of his situation. Your people hold Earth, Hoffman said. Why? Vral's mandibles twitched. Fertility, water, access, resources. The atmosphere was convenient for our bioforms. You've had 500 years, Spiegel said. That doesn't explain why it's still underdeveloped. Barely fortified. Vral hesitated. Answer, Hoffman said. There are 15 million Dravar on Earth, Vral said finally. Technicians, garrison, science cast. No elite fleets, no planetary shield. Mars is empty. Titan is a husk. Earth is still watched, but not touched. Why not? Hoffman pressed. Vral's voice dropped, almost involuntary. Because even the dead sometimes breathe. Spiegel leaned closer to the glass. Nothing else worth hiding? Vral's eyes flicked up. Our leadership is fractured. The Dravar assembly is in decline. Resources stretched. Support has crumbled. Many have left the Sol system. Entire divisions reassigned to the outer fringes. We were told to hold Earth, not to engage. Most of us didn't even want to be there. He paused, then added bitterly, Ask whatever you want. Half of us would say worse. Your interrogation is easy because our government already failed us. Silence hung between them. Spiegel exhaled, low. That's why you didn't build a fortress. You were afraid of what was buried, and too broken to dig it up. Varal said nothing. Hoffman keyed the internal comm. Hope, notify the fleet. Yes, Admiral, she replied. Set course, Earth. The fleet advanced through the system with silence in its wake. The Seraphim flanked the Ragnarok's port side, while Inazuma remained invisible, her analog drive threading through gravitational interference undetected. As they approached Mars, what remained was a cracked shell, orbital docks torn from their moorings, surface bases covered in rust and dust storms. No movement, no power, just echoes. Titan was worse. A moon-turned morgue. From the observation deck, Hoffman watched the faint shimmer of Earth reflect on the edges of Saturn's rings. Still distant, still blue. Spiegel entered quietly. Report, Hoffman said. Scans confirm it, Spiegel answered. The Dravar on Earth don't broadcast. Their installations are below low orbit and irregular. Nothing matches standardized military grid. It's like they're squatting. 15 million, Hoffman said. That's not a camp. No, Spiegel agreed. But it's not a fortress either. Hoffman turned toward him. If they control the planet, why not use it? Defend it? Fortify it? Spiegel's eyes darkened slightly. Because even they feel it, that something still waits beneath the surface. You don't build palaces over graveyards. A long silence passed between them. Then Hoffman spoke again, voice level. We're not just going back. No, Spiegel said. We're waking it up. He paused. And when it breathes again, the galaxy will remember why it tried to kill us. In the strategy chamber aboard the Ragnarok, a different conversation was happening. Neller, tall for a Korgtal, with skin like polished graphite and optic lines glowing faintly around her throat, stood beside Lek and Arjek. Holograms of Earth flickered between them, showing orbital paths, buried heat signatures, inactive satellites. This could collapse the balance, Neller said. You know it, Arjek. The humans take back Earth, and the structure of the galaxy shifts. Lek's secondary eyes blinked in asynchronous rhythm. Every coalition state will see it as aggression, the return of a species we were taught to fear. And fear was justified, Neller added. They built weapons we couldn't trace, drove enemies into extinction. Their extinction was not an accident. It was ordered. Arjek's voice was calm. And what if the order was wrong? The others paused. Yash entered the room quietly, but his presence was never subtle. His heavy gait carried finality with it. 4 green eyes narrowed, jaw set. You speak of fear as if it's still valid, Yash said. But we stood with them. We saw the Zelvar fall. We saw what happened when they refused to forget. Neller turned to him. You're a soldier, Yash. You think in targets and impacts, but this is diplomacy, stabilization. If Earth becomes a banner, then let it be, Yash interrupted. We didn't stand at their side to soften history. We stood to end it. Arjek folded both upper hands behind his back. Earth is not a banner. It's a reckoning, and the galaxy needs to reckon. Lek exhaled slowly. If we move forward with them, we lose neutrality. We never had it, Arjek said. We were just lucky enough to pretend. The hologram of Earth spun slowly above them, lights flickering across its dark oceans. And above them, the fleet pushed closer. The solar winds thickened with static. Earth filled the sky, still blue, still waiting. Humanity wasn't coming home. It was reclaiming it. And this time, it brought witnesses. The Ragnarok emerged from the dark side of the moon with her engines at idle and her weapons cold. No flares, no comm bursts, just a ghost ship returning to orbit, unseen, untraceable. Below, Earth turned slowly, blanketed in cloud systems, its oceans gleaming under the sun like ancient armor. Lunar positioning complete, Hope reported. We are not yet detected. Hoffman stood at the center of the bridge, arms folded behind his back, eyes locked on the planet below. No one spoke. Even the hum of consoles seemed distant. Begin passive scan. I want everything. His voice cut clean across the silence. Hope's systems pulsed. Contact. Multiple dormant satellites of human origin, orbiting the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic convergence points. No current energy signature. Serial codes match UES Deep Cryo Array. Project designation, Vigil. Spiegel stepped forward slowly. That system was theoretical. It was never built. At least, that's what they told us. It was built, Hoffman said, and it worked. Begin activation, he ordered. Hope paused, then responded. Ancient command protocols found. Decrypting. Authority codes match Admiral class. Authentication complete. Satellite links initiating. The lights dimmed slightly as the signal reached deep into the planet's atmosphere and continued further below. The console nearest Rayner flared. Reading massive energy return, he said, voice dry with disbelief. Geothermal pulses. Ionic regulation. Artificial current stabilizers. All coming online. Hope's voice shifted, almost reverent. Confirmed. 4 billion human life forms detected. Cryogenically stabilized. Buried beneath oceanic trenches at depth between 6 and 11 kilometers. Status. Viable. Alert sequence green. For a moment, even the war forgot to move. Silence fell again. Heavier now. Even Yash stood still, all four eyes locked on the rotating globe above the command table. Then Hoffman spoke, voice low. Select and awaken 20 million. Military personnel only. Start with the Mariana Vault. Processing, Hope answered, almost in a whisper. The globe zoomed, focused, and dove into the chasm of the Pacific, a dark crescent surrounded by a field of now-activated defense nodes. From the depths, lights pulsed outward in rhythmic arcs. Exopylons shifted. Cryolocks cracked. Sleeper pods split open like scars, not fresh, but still aching. And this time, they were waking up angry. Some gasped. Some screamed. All remembered what it meant to fight. Cryo chambers stable. Atmospheric adjustment protocols engaged. Neuromuscular reactivation underway. Spiegel stepped back from the display. They planned it, all of it. Not just survival, but return. Before anyone could respond, Hope's voice came sharp. Alert. Drivar early warning protocols triggered. Planetary monitors detecting large-scale bioreactivation. Inbound fleet signature, 500 vessels. Drivar class, closing fast, 6 hours to contact. Here it comes, Rayner said. Hoffman was already moving. Divert Ragnarok and Seraphim. Pull them to lunar orbit. If we fight up here, we burn Earth with us. He turned toward Talbot. Decouple defense grid. Assign auxiliary units to flank dispersion. Hope. Coordinate with Matt on Seraphim. Begin active jamming on Drivar targeting systems. Confirmed, Hope replied. Signal scramblers cycling. Enemy fleet trajectory now locked on us. Spiegel looked over. They're coming for us, not the planet. Exactly, Hoffman said. Good, Hanzo's voice came through the comm. Then we can move. He stood already aboard the Inazuma, now drifting lower in Earth's orbit, cloaked and silent. Behind him, a squad of newly awakened Marines geared up in exo-rigs, some still shaking off cryo-tremors, others already checking weapons. Yash is with us, Hanzo continued. Arjek, too. We're taking a strike team to the surface. We'll rip out every Drivar installation from the inside. Deployment path? Hoffman asked. Sarutobi answered in his place. Insertion vector aligned. Trojan slip maneuver within the atmosphere. Impact in 22 minutes. Execute, Hoffman said. The Inazuma disengaged from its position, folded its emission profile into thermal nothingness, and disappeared beneath the clouds in a silent fall. The spear was airborne. On board the Inazuma, the internal lighting dimmed to full combat red. The floor trembled only slightly as atmospheric entry began. Yash stood at the bulkhead, arms crossed, gaze heavy. The Korgtal armor he wore had been reinforced with human plating, a hybrid of battlefield cultures, marked only by clean function. His voice was steady as he addressed the Marines. Yash's boots thudded once against the floor before he spoke. "You were frozen. You survived. Now you fight. The Drevar who think they own your home will find out otherwise." Sergeant Nolan, now fully activated, nodded to the squad. "Primary target is the Titan array south of the Indo-Pacific Vault. We neutralize their command uplink. They go blind." "Secondary?" asked Lieutenant Soren, voice calm. "Extermination," Hanzo said. "No survivors. No warnings." Below them, Earth rushed upward, oceans vast, sky blackened at the edges by Drevar orbital haze. Deep in the water, vault doors were opening. Soldiers were rising. Back in space, the Ragnarok and Seraphim pulled wide from orbit in synchronized arcs. Their presence became a lure. Two giants daring the enemy to fire. Hope's voice echoed across the bridge. "Drevar fleet is locking weapons. We are holding outside gravity well. Estimated time to engagement, 3 hours, 42 minutes. Then we hold," Hoffman said, "until they're ready down there." Talbot gave a sharp nod. "And if they're not, then we burn anyway," Hoffman replied. "But at least we'll burn awake." Below, light erupted from the sea. Humanity didn't die. It waited to fight. The first Drevar volley tore the dark above Earth, like the sky cracked open and bled light. Plasma arcs split vacuum into streaks of white and ultraviolet, converging on the Ragnarok's forward shield array in violent succession. Impacts flared across the defense lattice, blooming energy into the hull, but the armor held. "Shields at 84%, Hope reported. "Rotational deflection protocols active." "Hold line," Hoffman ordered. "Push into their formation." "We make them bleed first." The Ragnarok surged forward with a deep core rumble, engines shedding blue fire as the Seraphim mirrored the maneuver to starboard. Together, the twin flagships drove straight into the Drevar fleet, carving a wedge through the heart of 500 warships. Above the chaos, orbital debris spun like shrapnel. The vacuum boiled with sensor jamming and weapons heat. Starfighters broke formation and scattered as the Gungnir's systems rebooted, its coils heating for another shot. "Targeting matrix locked," Hope announced. "Zelvar modifications holding under strain." "Fire," Hoffman said. The second Gungnir strike tore a Drevar command carrier into a collapsing ball of molten steel. The shockwave fractured a nearby cruiser, its drive core detonating as it spun sideways into 2 corvettes. The formation cracked, not broken, but rattled. "Keep pressure on the flank," Spiegel's voice came over encrypted calm. "We keep them focused on us. Hanzo hits clean." Below, the Earth's stratosphere shimmered, the Inazuma's thermal signature briefly appearing before vanishing again. Atmospheric entry trails spiraled behind it like claws cutting through cloud. On the surface, Hanzo's boots hit wet sand. Behind him, 3 dropships followed through the vortex gate, opened by Sarutobi's atmospheric breach. Hundreds of awakened soldiers charged behind him, exo-rigs hissing, weapons warm. "Move!" Hanzo shouted. "Base 1 is 3 clicks northeast. Minimal resistance. We hit fast. We hit first." Yash landed seconds later, heavier, armored. His frame absorbed impact without strain. The Korgtal raised his quad-barreled scatter cannon, already tracking movement in the jungle shadows. The Drevar outpost loomed beyond the tree line, a silver mound half buried in soil, pulsing with artificial light. Soldiers moved along its outer platforms, tall insectoid bipeds with plated torsos and elongated sensory spines. Their weapons resembled fused bone and crystal, crackling with bioelectric current. They weren't ready. The first wave of humans broke their perimeter in 64 seconds. Sergeant Nolan led his squad through the side entrance, clearing rooms with brutal precision. 2 Drevar fell before they could vocalize an alarm. Lieutenant Soren lobbed a thermite pack into the power bay. Detonation shredded the backup relay and collapsed the outpost's primary uplink tower. In the central chamber, a Drevar officer backed into a wall, shaking. He looked at Yash, massive, silent, eyes burning. He dropped his rifle and fell to one knee. "Why?" the alien hissed through vibrating mandibles. "Why did you come back?" Yash didn't pause. "Because you forgot that humans don't quit, and neither do their allies." And then he fired. Across the globe, vault doors opened. In the Atlantic Ridge, in the Philippine Trench, under the polar caps, humanity rose. They wore the seal of the UES, their armor sealed in ancient configurations, their minds reawakening to a war older than memory. Hope transmitted commands on encrypted bands. "Sector 11 clear," echoed one Marine officer. "Base Gamma neutralized. Resistance retreating," another reported. "Enemy command signatures severed," came from the Eurasian theater. In orbit, the Drevar fleet began to fracture. "Pullback detected," Rayner said. "They're breaking lines." Hoffman narrowed his eyes. "No, they're abandoning them." On the tactical display, escape trajectories began to flicker. Dozens of ships were initiating burn sequences, not to regroup, but to flee. Their vectors pointed outward, beyond Mars, beyond Pluto. "They're running," Talbot muttered. "Some of them actually running." Signal intercepts confirm surrender on multiple channels, Hope said. "Requesting mercy. Authorization?" "None granted," Hoffman replied. "Let the ground forces decide." Below, Hanzo moved through the ruins of Base 9. His armor was scorched, his rifle nearly depleted, but his steps were steady. He watched as a squad led a Drevar prisoner through the rubble, tall, wounded, his breathing erratic. "You can't reclaim it all," the alien spat. "Even now, others will come. You're still prey." "No," Hanzo said. "We're the warning." The Drevar flinched. Behind him, more humans emerged from the jungle, medics helping wounded, engineers reactivating relay points, scouts securing perimeters. The blue and silver flag of the UES was raised over the base, its edges frayed from time but unbroken. On the bridge of the Ragnarok, Hope's voice came with finality. "Global Drevar forces neutralized, surrendered vessels routed, strategic resistance ended. Human forces confirmed operational on all major continents. Cryogenic activation expanded." A pause. Mission of species preservation complete. No one spoke. Then slowly, Hoffman walked toward the main viewport. Earth spun below, oceans burning bright, cities lighting up in old patterns, and the clouds parting like curtains before a stage that had waited centuries for its cast. He tapped the console. A star chart unfolded, glowing dots across the galaxy marked by color and code. Red lines cut through familiar constellations, Drevar strongholds, Zelvar remnants, coalition archives. "Mark them all," he said. "Every one of them." "Yes, Admiral," Hope answered. Talbot stepped forward. "Is it over?" "No," Hoffman said, "but it's begun." The map pulsed once, then stabilized. He looked out the viewport again. His voice dropped to a whisper, but it cut like steel. "Now," he said, his voice razor sharp. "They'll remember who we are. And this time, they won't forget." Hey there, space human. I'm really curious about your thoughts on this video. Drop a quick comment and let me know what's on your mind. Or just say hi if you prefer. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Oh, and one last thing. Every great soldier knows that to survive and become a hero, taking care of yourself is key. So before you go, check the pinned comment. Trust me, it's important. And I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.